Now, in politics today, contenders for the Tory party leadership are already at odds over how to solve the Brexit crisis. Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt claims he can find a different way to get an exit deal. Meanwhile, former Cabinet Ministers Boris Johnson and Dominic Raab argue that the UK must leave the EU as scheduled on the 31st of October, raising the prospect of leaving without a deal. Well, joining me now from the Imperial Pub in Exeter is the chairman of JD Wetherspoon, Tim Martin. So, Tim, very good afternoon to you. Are you concerned about a no-deal Brexit?
Yes, I'm concerned about it. I really want it. I think a no-deal Brexit's much better. We can regain control of fishing. We can eliminate thousands of protective EU tariffs. We can increase the level of democracy in the country, and we can save 39 billion. That's a big plus. No deal is far better than a deal. We'll be better off on day one with no deal, and it'll get better after that. If you say you must have a deal, you only end up with a really dire one. We voted to leave, let's go. You've heard British Airways just now say the big scare story about planes not flying was just that. So let's get on with it, surely.
So what have you made for these comments from Jeremy Hunt this morning, saying that a no-deal Brexit would be political suicide? I mean, that's assuming he can even get it through the Commons, of course.
Well, I think that the problem is the main two political parties are in the grip, as well as a lot of people in business and the media are in grip of Oxbridge Remainers who have a quasi-religious desire to stay in the EU. Because they lost the referendum, they have to now say, we need a deal. It's another way of saying we want to stay in the EU. If Jeremy Hunt says that, and Rory Stewart said the same thing again, both Oxbridge Remainers, Emily Thornberry said the same thing, then votes will go to parties other than those two. That's the inevitable consequence.
So you're one of the high priests, if you like, of the Brexit movement. Who would you like to see as the next Prime Minister?
Well, I think if Boris or Dominic Raab, for example, I prefer Boris because he's had another job. He's run a magazine for 8 years, and he's been Mayor of London twice. I'd prefer Boris, but if they cannot corral the dominant Remain politicians within their own party, they will lose out to the Brexit party at the election. So if Jeremy Hunt and Rory Stewart and Emily Thornberry keep saying the same things, we're going round and round in circles, and they're effectively saying they don't want to leave.
But how concerned would you be? I mean, the possibility of the Conservative Party fragmenting, the Brexit Party taking away votes from the Tories at an election, I mean, all roads would lead to a Corbyn government in that eventuality, wouldn't they?
Well, I think there comes a time when you have to stop speculating on the minutiae of parliamentary manoeuvres. As far as the electorate's concerned, and the Brexit Party showed that, both those main parties have not fulfilled their obligations to the electorate or in their manifestos, and they have not adhered to the referendum. So in those circumstances, if democracy is going to work in this country in the future, then it has to be other parties. It's up to them. Do what they promised in the referendum, or get fired by the electorate, or don't have a democracy, which is the way Europe itself is heading. It's becoming less and less democratic.
Well, while we've got you, Tim, obviously it's an interesting time right now in the hospitality sector. Jamie Oliver's restaurant empire went into administration last week. I mean, there are suggestions that pub groups are really on the revival and are contributing to the demise of the casual dining sector. Do you go along with that?
I don't think so. I think that a lot of the casual dining sector and some of the pub companies as well got seduced by the drug of branding. And Jamie Oliver was the ultimate brand, but there were some others as well. And it's not really about a brand, as someone told me 30 or 40 years ago. if you run a pub or a restaurant, it's a trade, and you've got to develop the individual aspects of the business as time goes along. But a lot of these guys thought they were so groovy that the brand would do the work for them. We've banned the use of brand in Wetherspoons. We are not a brand. We're only as good as our next pint. If you follow that philosophy, you won't get everything right, but you'll start to get a few things right.
Do you think, though, that the casual dining sector has become oversaturated?
No, I think we're probably all willing to go out for a pint and a meal at the right price. I think they tried to get into the most expensive locations. They thought they were good enough. They set very high prices on their menu, and they weren't experienced at running these businesses. But if you offer us a decent pint or a meal, we'll go out for one. That's the way the people are, but they just didn't manage to do it.
And briefly, Tim, obviously we are due to leave the EU as things stand on the 31st of October. What will Wetherspoons be doing that night?
I'll be breakdancing down the street right outside your studio, Ian, if we leave the EU with no deal. What a night it's going to be. Oh, what a night.
All right, Tim Martin from the Imperial in Exeter. Very good to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.